Me too.
There we go, live.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Body Electrician Live. I'm Cheryl Whitehouse from California, and with me I also have Nancy Piscatello in New York. Say hi, Nancy.
Hey, Cheryl, what's up, girl?
Just hanging out. That's what we do here. And we also have a special guest tonight. We have in Mission Control, Dylan Walt.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, how you doing?
We're going to talk tonight about some subjects that we don't really hear the guys talking about much, some female issues. So this will be interesting.
Yes, it certainly will. Hi, Ethan. Ethan's in the background over there.
A little subtle entertainment there.
Absolutely. So, all right, ladies, where should we start the topic here?
Well, I think I also would just like to throw in that I just got back from a bit of a trip, and I spent a couple of days in Pennsylvania with another scan hub named Lisa, and it was a great time, and it was really cool to see people coming in and just sharing their experiences with doing the scans, following the protocol, with them coming off of medications, and talking about the improvement of in their lives. It was just really great to hear all that, and it was great to get to know Lisa. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, awesome. Sounds like we need Lisa on the show. What do you think, Cheryl?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Uh-huh.
So, ladies, what are we discussing with ladies? Ladies. Are we ladies? Are we girls? Are we women?
All the above.
All the above. There you go.
We're just powerful people.
That's right.
Yep, and we have things that make us different from men.
Aha, yes we do. Would you like to start on that, Cheryl?
Yeah, and it starts for some women, ladies, girls, whatever, girls these days, at a very disconcerting age sometimes. Probably the first clue that people, women get that they really are quite different than boys is they start to menstruate. This is very different. And it's happening now. I mean, the age keeps going down and down. I remember a few years ago, it was like, oh my gosh, 9-year-olds, getting their periods. Now it's like, now it's gone down to 7- and 8-year-olds. So what's going on here?
Well, there's a good argument for the hormonal additives in foods, for the imbalances in the body. Any more technical than that would probably have to consult Dr. Will.
Yeah, but definitely, I would say that's a big part of it. But I wonder if it's all the stuff in the environment too. Wouldn't you think that has to do with some of what's going on?
I'm not exactly sure. What would there be in the environment that would do that?
Well, the estrogenators and all of that. Am I saying that right? I just made up a word, I think.
Estrogenators.
Yeah. The BPA and all of that. There's
all right. Yeah.
Effect on girls' hormones as well as boys. I know it affects boys. Actually, I think it affects boys worse than girls. But I'm wondering if that even adds to it as well.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. But I think that's happening a lot more too. And then you hear of kids that aren't getting it for a very long time as well. So
right.
I think it can affect both ways.
It was not unusual, even when I was growing up, for people closer to the tropic, to the equator, for that to happen. Like, it was not unusual for 8-year-old girls to be, I even heard of a couple of them getting pregnant when I was a kid. And there was something about the heat, the climate. So I guess it's possible even what they're doing in the skies and the change in intensity of the sun could be having an effect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some interesting ideas there.
Yeah, historically, they get women or girls would get their first period somewhere around uh, 16. I think in some tribal cultures, even up to like 18.
Well, I think that's just as unusual as a young age. I'm thinking more like, between 12, 14 has probably always been about average, with a few exceptions both ways. Because I know when I was in school, and that was pretty long ago, all the girls were pretty much dealing with that in 7th grade, and that's 12, 13 years old. And if we got to like 9th grade and somebody didn't have it, there was almost a concern that, that was quite unusual. And that would have been 15, 16 years old. So, I mean, that's my perspective. I couldn't tell you what statistics actually are.
Well, now Will has some interesting ideas about menstruation too. I'm sure you're familiar with it too, right? Well, Cheryl, you mentioned something to me. I had never heard him say that. What were you saying that Will feels
Well,
about?
he was talking about menopause.
Yeah, the other end.
I'm sorry. I'm at the other end of this spectrum here, right? I'm jumping the gun, as they say. But yeah, no, no. Oh, I'm sorry. He did say something to me once, though, about how many days women used to bleed. Now, he was saying that I don't know if it was historically women used to bleed. I think it's tribes. You know what I'm talking about, Delanne? That he was saying that they used to bleed for like 1 or 2 days. It was very quick. And yet women today seem to get them, especially when girls are young, they seem to get their period for, almost a week and a half sometimes.
Wow.
And
That's
he was
long.
saying
Yeah.
that's not the way it should be. It should be like 1 day of a light period, 1 day of a heavy one, and then maybe one go back to light. And that's what like native cultures dealt with. I don't know.
I think that has more to do with like body weight. A real thin girl, even today, most kids who tend to be like skinny, and I guess that's the word skinny, tend to have a shorter duration than girls who are heavier, and that could go along with the toxic load in the body. Modern day people definitely have a heavier toxic load. But I remember reading an article about how the Native Americans handled it and how the women would trail along behind the tribe when they were traveling, and that it was up to a week. So I would say anywhere from 3 to 7 days is more probably on a historical average. Now, Will's people tend to, like, he's more Northern European in his descent. He does have Native American in him and such, but they tend to be thinner. And I really think there's something to the body weight and the long, the long stature, like long-legged, tall people with low body weight. The fat ratio, I think, does have something to do with how the flow, will go.
Right.
He's not in the room, so I can't actually get his input here. Yeah.
Would have been good back in some tribal cultures where the women had their own hut they could go to and they could just spend the day. They were doing beading. Sounds great to me. But they also used to like get their periods on the
moon,
and then ovulate on the full moon.
No, the other way around, I think.
Or perhaps everyone was just getting it at the same time.
Yeah, well, even today you'll notice people in an office together or girls in a family. We will energetically align with one another when we're in community that way. And, the cycles will happen. They may overlap to some extent, but yeah, girls do that.
Yeah. So I suppose in the tribe, yeah, you'd be pretty synchronized.
Probably even more so, yeah. All the women are in the back of the caravan now.
Oh. Yeah, it kind of led me to wonder, well, yeah, what is normal? I was reading a blog written by she was raw vegan, I believe, and a lot of those people have very little, if any, bleeding, yet they were questioning if that's okay, because that is usually people would say this is unhealthy, you're people who exercise a lot, this can happen to, or people with eating disorders, and you're supposed to bleed, and they were making the case that, maybe that's not necessary. What's important is that you should be ovulating.
Well, I'm not sure how you would ovulate and not menstruate, because the egg is dropped, and there's a process to that, and to evacuate the egg, the uteral lining has to be shed. But as far as the vegans and the people who body work, that goes back to what I said before about the body fat ratio. You get below a certain body fat, you can't really get pregnant. I think ovulation stops as well, and the periods. It's not unusual for that to stop because the body just doesn't have the extra to shed that way.
Huh. Maybe that's what happened to me.
Well, you are quite thin.
Yeah, well, I lost 25 pounds. I've gained 10 back. But yeah, that wasn't one of my goals getting into this. I just wanted to get rid of my muffin top a bit, but yeah, weight loss has never been an issue for me, really.
And so what, when you lost the weight, then your menstruation stopped for a while?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because yeah, when I came to Will, I was having sometimes some very excessive periods. Ones that you're thinking, oh my gosh, and you can feel the life force coming out of you. It's like it was, yeah. I had that on and off for 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I was glad that stopped. Now I'm a little concerned, like, oh, am I going into menopause? What's going on? It's just very, very light, but I think something is going on still. So, I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're still in a process. I know that when I first changed my diet and everything, I got really skinny. And it's not unusual, especially for women, to say, when am I going to stop losing weight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then over years, well, now I could lose 10, 15 pounds. I mean, I'm pretty sedentary with the work that we do, and I have a concern about weight again. So you're saying that you lost weight, you started out, you were having the heavy, concerning periods. Now you've lost all kinds of weight, and they've all but stopped. It sounds like the pendulum is just still looking to find its center. I'd say just, in time, things will probably just normalize for you, because that's really how things happen. When you get into, natural healing, so many things in the body have to transition over to a more natural way of processing and functioning, that you usually do go from one extreme to the other and then end up somewhere more, like healthy and stable in the middle. So don't worry.
I'm not. But what does bring on the excessive menstruating then? If you're not overweight, if you're not, carrying. I mean, well, I guess I know I had coming into this. I had 4 different kinds of candida that turned up on my scans. Yeah. Is there a connection with that?
Boy, I don't know that I have enough knowledge to really answer that. I could only guess. And in my opinion, Candida, I would think, would have more of a tendency to slow things down and stop things up rather than make it flow more. But I mean, stress can enter into it. Hormonal imbalance is huge.
Right.
Especially like thyroid issues, and that can come from so many sources. It can be pathogenic. It can be just stress in the body. Of course, if you're eating incorrectly, you're just providing food for pathogens, and then those things get in there. You get mood swings. It depends on lifestyle. I mean, there's so many factors. And, I'm not educated medically. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I'm not even considering here.
Yeah, like even the emotional aspect of that, and things that people have in history that might contribute to menstrual problems or fertility problems, or things that crop up.
And probably the same things that we talked about that cause early maturity, even the plastic bottles, there are so many things. I'm sure we don't even have a handle on all of them.
Yeah, that causes imbalance, right?
Right. And that's the key, balance. When
Yeah.
things are in balance, they work well.
Well, you guys, I should say bodyelectrician.com is where you can get the ancient goddess formula, and I think that is such a balancing herbal mix that you guys put together. So, I mean, I was on that for a long time, and it
Mm.
comes back up every once in a while. It hasn't in a while for me, but it's it's funny how it came up when I was having some issues as well. So
Yeah.
It's funny because we have some young girls that are taking it, not young girls, young women, for birth control. And then we have others that are taking it for fertility. It's
wow,
a matter of, yeah, it's a matter of how much, how often, and intention.
interesting.
Yes.
So you guys have seen people who have had fertility problems or difficulty conceiving come around.
Oh, absolutely. One girl in particular had been through multiple um, in vitro attempts, unsuccessful, and she was concerned. She was pushing 40 and wanted a baby desperately. She got a scan, followed the protocols, went through that for about a year with us, and it was about a year. She became pregnant. She now has a 9-month-old.
Aw,
Great.
Yeah.
success stories. We like that.
Uh-huh.
Mm. What role do the minerals have in the conception or bleeding? Because yeah, I mean, those came up for me a lot. I was taking a lot of minerals for a while.
Well, when you consider that you cannot have a sufficient level of minerals in your body unless you supplement, and unless you supplement correctly with something that's electrically bioavailable, which there's very few of that type of product out there, nothing in the body can function. I mean, everything in the body functions by frequency. Minerals hold the frequency. And we need at least 60 minerals to be healthy. I mean, with our products, you get over 70, but every one of those minerals has its own individual frequency, which relates to body functions. And so whatever minerals are missing, those frequencies are missing. And if you can understand that everything is about energy, it all functions, even the physical stuff is inspired by energetic processes first. So the processes are incomplete or they're skewed. They don't, connect properly without a broad spectrum of minerals in the body. And usually, like for you, somebody comes to us, there's a saturation, they get really high recommendations on their protocol because the body just wants to saturate with minerals. And then as time goes on and that gets achieved, then, it goes down to just a more basic maintenance level.
Yeah, they don't even come up anymore.
Yeah, there you go. But if you stop taking them all together, they would show up again.
Yeah, I had that experience too.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like I was saying to myself, oh, I guess I don't need minerals anymore. And that next scan, there it was.
Uh-huh.
And it was a lot of it too. It was like 15 ounces a day. No, 15 ounces 3 times a day. That's a lot.
Oh gosh, I'll start taking my minerals again. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, you should never stop taking them. I mean, the body is an amazing machine and it'll use up its stores before it goes into stress. Don't forget what shows up on the scan is what's stressing the body. So you actually have to your level has to go down to where you are now being stressed by the lack thereof. So if you just stay on a low dose or, find out what your maintenance dose is, it'll continue to not show up and then you'll have a good level of minerals in your body.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian, was he just drinking minerals there? He tipped his cup.
No, he's just probably toasting. Yeah. So is there anything that you guys would recommend to women or couples who are intentionally trying to conceive, even diet-wise, or anything to prepare themselves? I mind you.
I'm sorry, that was cute.
My answer is almost a canned answer. Get a scan, follow the protocol, make the dietary changes. Understand um, I hate how this might sound, but it's like understand why we say what we do. We're not just making these dietary we're not just making these dietary recommendations because we want to be different. There's good reason. And when you understand it, it's really hard to argue with the points that we make. And, you know, there's a lot of toxins that come in from a standard American diet. The body doesn't always know how to get rid of them. They get stored in the body. When a toxic level reaches a certain point, one of the first things that it'll stop is fertility.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Yeah. So you want to bring the body to balance. You do that by correcting the diet, getting certain basic things into the body. I mean, even if you're not interested in the scanning, you think you don't really have health issues significant enough to warrant that, you're mineral deficient unless you have a good quality mineral supplement. The microbes that live in our gut have been altered and are extremely wiped out around the world. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But there's, you know, there are thousands of microbes that belong in our gut. And again, they all have a function when they're in balance. And so, and it's very easy to get out of balance when you don't have a broad spectrum. So there's, you know, there's a broad spectrum of minerals, a broad spectrum of probiotics, including the soil-borne transient kind that nobody talks about. Enzyme production can be extremely compromised by eating a lot of grains. That's what they do. They shut down the enzyme production, so you're not going to assimilate food and get nourishment and a good level of amino acids. So it's minerals and amino acids for healthy cells. It's enzymes and probiotics, microbes, to make everything work so that the food breaks down and you actually can uptake these things and, you know, your body can be healthy. So back to you, Cheryl, you know, you said you're not taking the minerals now. I was going to say that there are certain things that we take no matter what. Enzymes, minerals, the probiotics, and, you know, paying attention to the intake of sufficient amino acids. That's really the key to health.
Right. I tend to get lazy with that and wait for the scan and then say, okay, this is what I need.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like another thing to take.
What you're doing there, though, is allowing yourself to get stressed with the lack of it. So if you know, if you understand that, I just take them religiously, 2 capsules a day.
Yeah, that's smart. I do now with the minerals. I still do the liquid one, and I set it up in a bottle. And when I remember, I go pour some, and I just drink it in the morning. You know. So hopefully it won't be screaming on my chart anymore. But we'll see. Take your minerals, you know.
It's amazing how the stuff can sit on your counter, and you get so used to seeing it, you just stop reaching for it. I'm guilty of that. I have to move it around and put it in my way.
Right. If you trip over it, you'll take it. There you go.
Oh, that's right. There they are.
Oh my God.
Well, I'll start taking my minerals again.
Well, don't you think that's kind of a woman thing, too? We're so used to seeing to everybody else's needs and, you know, that the house is right and the shopping's done and, you know, the kids and the husband and everybody's taken care of. We forget to take care of ourselves.
Wow, good point.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes feel like that, especially in the morning, you know, if you've got the whole family, which I do, on a protocol, then you wind up sort of doing a dance in the morning. Okay, this one needs this one needs this one needs this. Are you taking yours? Where are you? Take your pet, you know what I mean? So you're running around, you almost forget, oh, wait, I haven't taken care of myself. You know, it's almost like that oxygen bag. You should take care of yourself. Breathe first, and then take care of everybody else. But we forget to do that. We do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you brought up the ovulating before, and you just reminded me of something that I know when women are trying to conceive, I know that the light has a lot to do with whether we ovulate. All this light pollution, the fact that we have lights in our bedroom and lights outside that are creeping into, in other words, we're not getting darkness. And darkness is something that enables the body to heal. I believe it's melatonin. brings on, is it melatonin? I'm not sure. But I know that the light affects whether we ovulate or not. And it used to be that without light, you'd have moonlight. Now, the moon, when it was full, would bring on ovulation for women. See, but we're not affected by the moon much anymore, or at least not that way, unless you're living without any street lights or indoor lighting.
It's interesting. I had not considered that.
Yeah, when I was trying to conceive JoJo, it's funny because the girls, I really didn't think about getting pregnant, it just happened. But yet I had a miscarriage in between Chloe and JoJo. And I guess the depression set me up with, like, I just can't end my
Mm.
childbearing years on such a sadness. So to conceive him, I actually put a light on every night during times you're supposed to be ovulating. So I was much more cognizant of what was going on in my body and what I needed to do to conceive that time. And I had read that if you put on a light at night during certain times, it makes sure that your body's getting that signal. So that's something for women out there to try if they're having a little trouble. It's a little thing.
Yeah,
Plus,
that's a new one on me.
they call me bananas. Eat bananas.
Well, I have 6 kids. I never had a problem getting pregnant. I really have not read or gotten very informed on that issue. And I have to say that the few people that we've worked with to get pregnant, through our work, it's been quite successful. Just scanning them and bringing their bodies into balance, and the body just did what it did, and they were successful.
I had a miscarriage after my first 2 also, and I guess I was wondering, do miscarriages just happen? Is it really just one of those random things, or is there more going on there? What do you think, Joanne?
Well, I don't think it's normal to have a miscarriage. I think there is an abnormality that causes a miscarriage, and that can be, a wide spectrum of things. If mom doesn't feel safe, if mom's, having your period, having a child, even breastfeeding are all pathways for the body to get rid of toxins that it can't deal with. And so it's, one of the things that could happen is there's something going on in mom's body that mom's body needs to get rid of. And it's, one of the blessings of having your period every month that we have as a benefit over men is that we get a monthly dump. And the body takes advantage of that. It puts a lot of toxins into that, the menstruation. And it would do the same with a fetus. A fetus can be shed and mom can have another baby. A baby can't live without a mom. And so nature knows this. And so, I think a lot of times that's what it is, or mom is just not healthy enough, doesn't have the reserves enough to build a healthy child. And so it just has to be shed, or mom is has some fear or emotional imbalances. That can also cause it, especially in the very beginning, which is when most miscarriages happen. Everything has to be just right, so it looks like, so nature is aligned with that there's a viable chance for this child to make it out of the womb and have a healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Cheryl, how did you feel after yours? Did you have a big depression? Because I know that's what I went through. Or was it just sort of like, oops, you didn't know? Or some women have miscarriages, they don't even realize they had one. So
Right.
how was
Yeah, I was sad about it. I even though it was my third, yeah, I was.
like, how many months along were you?
It wasn't that far even, but it was long enough to get, it was an early pregnancy still, but it was long enough that you're used to being pregnant because, I was feeling it, it's like I knew I was pregnant. And then it's like you're not. But the weird thing is, even when you're there and you're losing the pregnancy, your body still feels pregnant for some time. So,
yeah, I've had my first one at 16, And that was way back in the days when abortion was first being presented as, an open subject in society, and I was very pro-abortion. But I went through this month of being late, and then this month of worrying about, uh-oh, and then I snuck off to the doctor before I ever told my parents anything. When I was told for sure that I was pregnant, something shifted in me. I just knew in that moment. I knew I was a kid. I had no idea how I was going to even manage it. But once I knew there was life in me, I'm still pro-abortion. It's choice. I really do believe it's an individual's choice. But I knew I couldn't make it. I just knew I had to go through whatever was going to come my way as a result. But if I was having a baby, I was having it. And I think that is a natural connection and instinct for women. I had a miscarriage between number 4 and 5.
You did.
And it was really difficult. Yeah. You get bonded, I think, almost instantly. Once once you really get it in your head, there's life in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think that was my favorite experience in life, just having those little babies in there. It's cool. And I always feel sad when women complain and complain and complain through the whole thing. They hate it. They can't wait till it's over. I mean, that just, I don't know. I don't get that. I felt so full of life, and I loved it. I loved everything from the beginning to the end. The births, I thought was so cool. I had some cool births,
Well, I can't say I enjoyed what it did to my body.
Yeah. Well, some of the after effects I could do without, but that's but that's all right. It's a badge of courage, right, that we made it through that. But yeah, I don't think that I sometimes think there's not enough positiveness. Like, I think lately the movies seem to be touting how can't we all be honest and discuss how horrible pregnancy is and how we hate it and all this stuff. And the truth is, I think that's, I don't know, I think that's doing a disservice to women, because I think they need to understand how powerful an experience it is and how powerful you feel while you're pregnant like that. I mean, I know some women don't feel well during it, but
that's not the norm. There's just such a program of being disassociated with nature and with the natural processes of ourselves. And I think at the same time, there's a self-absorption going on. It's all about how you look, how you appear, the image, and people are so concerned with that. We've lost touch. I mean, the family bond is all but gone for, in most of America anyway. And I think that disconnect, girls get afraid. They don't have enough association with the women in their family, the grandmothers, the aunts, the mutual support, the whole positive aspect of bringing life and adding to the family, growing the family, being connected to your children. I mean, how many people have a baby and in 6 weeks they're back to work? Some minimum wage employees taking care of their child every day. They're not nursing. That whole electrical thing is gone. I mean, I think that's really more of a symptom of the social engineering that we're dealing with today than anything. I mean, my Lena, she had her baby she wasn't 21 yet, and almost 100% of her friends. We lived in town in a small city, and she went to high school, knew her friends, and there was a number of girls that got pregnant. But I was really astounded at how she was treated like she was from outer space when she went to a midwife, had a natural childbirth, she birthed in vitro, breastfed her baby. I mean, there were all the other girls that she knew in her age group, in her circle, they got the, what do you call it? I want to call it a saddle block. The needle in the spinal cord, just to numb everything. They don't experience their labor. They don't really, epidural, that's it. We called it a saddle block back in the day. but everything just is to cut the human off from humanity.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I always, one of my first birth with Sydney, I remember being in the hospital, and it was amazing to hear so many women freaking out. I mean, just screaming at their husbands and just losing it. And I was very calm. I felt sensation. There was definitely, and I had a lot of back labor too. But I don't understand, just you have to stay calm through that. Freaking out is not going to make it go faster or change anything. It just is during that time, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Living in their fear. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I have 11 grandkids. I'm certified in hypnosis, and the only way I've ever used my hypnosis is to help the moms relax. And to I call it ride the wave, because you're exactly right. If you embrace what's going on, it's not pain, it's sensation.
exactly.
You go with it, you experience it, you're in tune with, this person that's coming into your world. But there's so much fear about it, and you got to figure, I don't know whose bright idea it was to put men called doctors in charge of birthing.
Yeah.
That's where it all started to go wrong in my book. In a sterile institution with, some guy who couldn't possibly relate, telling
Yeah.
you what's best for you.
Hmm. There's quite a few books about the history of how it wound up in the hospitals, and also how many women were dying, just
Yeah,
dropping dead, babies and everything,
in
from
the
the hospital.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, from the doctors not washing their hands. Oh, they didn't know. I mean, really? Midwives knew that. You know what I mean? So ask them. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Or you.
I'm totally aligned, and I've had babies through. My first one was born in an operating room on a metal table with hands and feet in stirrups under a spotlight.
Uh,
Yeah. The next one, they had like a breakaway bed, and you were allowed to have somebody in with you. I mean, with the first one, it was like you went down a corridor, you got put in a cubicle. When you were ready to push, they took you into the operating room, and you did this whole thing alone and scared. And so just a couple of years till the next one, and then they were allowing the dad to be in, and it's been a progression ever since. My kids are 21 years from first to last, so I had the experience of, going from one extreme to the other with how birthing can be managed, although there's a lot of people still doing it very close to the old way.
Yeah. Yeah, and like my mother doesn't even remember her birth experience, even though she went to the hospital and she was like ready to deliver. They put her and they put her out pretty much.
Yeah.
And so she didn't really have much to tell me. She went to the hospital thinking she had gas, and I guess she was pretty much dilated. I was born like an hour later or something. So
Yeah, it's just a horrible experience. They didn't educate, women weren't encouraged to tune into what was going on with them. Just go to the doctor, he'll take care of it, and don't worry about it. And yeah, get knocked out, wake up, there's your baby. They would take the baby away from you for the whole first 12 to 24 hours, too, so mom could get some rest. And of
yeah.
course, bottle feeding was encouraged.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Now, a weird thing about that is my sister-in-law is a nurse. Now, that when I had my first in a hospital, my second was at home in the bathtub. So I'll tell you about that in a second. But she was saying, as a nurse, they are no longer giving bottles or any formula to babies, and they're encouraging the moms to have the babies in the rooms with them. Now, excuse me for being skeptical, but it seems to me like, what? The hospital is giving out formula because they make money from that. They make kickbacks. So what do anybody know what's going on with that? I really wonder. It's just too good to be
Is
true.
this a mainstream hospital?
This is a mainstream hospital. This is Stony Brook Hospital. But she's saying that's happening all over the place now. You know, I can't believe it. I mean, when she told me, I was like, all right, where's the catch? What's going on? She says, yeah, they don't give any formula anymore. When they used to give you nice little bags. I didn't use the formula, but they were, you know, the nice little bags and all these gifts inside them, diapers and all kinds of things.
Right.
Just to get you to use that formula, but she's saying they no longer do that. Weird. No pacifiers, nothing. They want those mothers breastfeeding. I can't get what the agenda is there, but
there's got to be an agenda.
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
There's got to be. There's a reason.
Oh, they're looking out for us. Really? I don't think so.
No. Well, maybe this whole trend towards C-sections is satisfying their gross financial needs. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, though, because the trend is to disconnect mother and child, disconnect the human element, that electrical bonding, and that's been the trend for years. Why would they just suddenly reverse it? There's got to be. It's a medical corporate industry. You know, there's got to be a good reason for it.
So we need some undercover work to figure out what the real agenda is there. I'd really like to know.
That's one that I might just look into.
Yeah. Spider senses are tingling on that one. Something's up.
Yeah, I was wondering about the C-section rates. Like you're told, like it's like 30% or something. You know, C-sections to vaginal births. But among my friends, it's probably like 80 to 90%. It seems like no one can have
more than 30.
Birth or even a vaginal birth. I know.
Well, it's very interesting. My 3-year-old grandson Emmy, when he was born, you girls might have heard this story already. They didn't have money, so and I was like, please, please, please go to the midwife. Just talk to the midwife; she'll work with you. Well, they were intimidated by their lack of money, and they were able to get state funding and state medical, so they went to the clinic. And they went to the clinic with a natural birth plan. And then what happened was, a girl gets to be near her due date, and you get to that appointment that's a week or two before. They want you to make an appointment to have your child. They don't wait for labor anymore. They'll just induce. Well, she resisted for a number of weeks to where they were actually telling her she was overdue now. A lot of pressure. And, when you go into those appointments, you get, very intimidated. They really do want to have it their way. So they finally talked her into going in and getting some procedure done. I don't remember the name of it, but what they do is they actually insert a balloon-like thing into the vagina and try to stretch it and stimulate contractions to start. The problem is they didn't have her come in until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't even try to have a procedure until 11 o'clock in the evening. And there she is, full-blown pregnant, on the verge of labor, and she hadn't had anything to eat. I mean, they told her not to eat from the night before. Jeez. So she's almost 24 hours without food when they begin this. So she went in, and Will had mentioned it on one of his shows, what was going on, because we were concerned this was not good. And we got a call from a woman who had been to one of Bruce Lipton's recent clinics. Bruce Lipton actually gives some classes in education on childbirth. And she said that in this class, what Bruce described was this exactly what we were going through, and that I don't want to make any accusations here, but that the tendency was to bring these women in, get them stressed, especially new moms, and then lead them into the Pitocin, and then they get so tired, even with that, they drag it out. They don't turn the Pitocin up fast enough. Mom gets too tired to even push the baby out, and then they come to her and they say, okay, you're a new mom, you don't have anything left, we have to take this baby cesarean. Well, I heard this as I was going to the hospital to be by her side through whatever kind of ordeal she was going to have to go through, and I literally watched it unfold in front of me. I watched them, 2.5 days without food, without sleep. they gave Pitocin. I had Pitocin a couple of times. I know what they can do with Pitocin. They can have a baby out of you in maximum of 12 hours without doing any, well, they do harm, but, you know, they kept her at this really low drip for like 24 hours. And then they turned it up a little bit, and then they came in the middle of the night, I think it was the third night, and told her to start pushing before she was ready.
Oh,
So
boy.
she's pushing for 5 or 6 hours. The baby's crowning, and she's very fatigued. They did two, yeah, what's the name of that again, Cheryl? The saddle block?
Epidural.
Epidural.
Epidural. They had to do the epidural twice. The first one wasn't done right. They had to do it again. So she had no feelings. They have her pushing. I'm watching the baby's crowning. And the doctor marches in and says, "You're a new mom. You've been pushing for 6 hours. You could push the rest of the day. You won't push this baby out. I could get this baby out with forceps in 15 minutes, but you have a natural birth plan, and now is not the time to rethink your birth plan, so your only option is cesarean."
Oh, my God.
I about dropped dead on the floor, and I have no say. So he leaves the room, and I try to talk to her, but she's already, can you imagine the state of mind she's in?
Sure.
She's scared, she's worn out, she's, it's just, ugh. And she had a cesarean. So what happened? The baby was crowning, so it was all the way, just its head was through the pelvis. They bounced her on that bed and jerked her so hard to get that baby back out of the birth canal, they tore her uterus up. She came out of the C-section, nursed once, and hemorrhaged back into surgery. They had to remove her uterus. She'll never have another child. And she bled out, died 3 times on the table, 3 transfusions. So I guess that was a sufficient income stream for that ordeal for them. I mean, it really is all about the money. And the hardest part was having known that Bruce Lipton was over there in Hawaii giving these classes and just outlining how it was going to go. I mean, it's a new protocol, I guess. So when you're saying that they're not encouraging bottles anymore, I'm wondering if there's any relationship here to that.
I wonder.
And what would it be? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I said the same thing. I kept saying to my sister-in-law, "You sure you're getting that right?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. No more bottles. They're not sending the moms home with the formula anymore." I was pretty surprised. So I don't know the full story, but...
And as far as I know, there aren't very many, especially young mothers, that want to breastfeed.
I know. I hear a lot of women that say that, and that's another thing that's just so close to my heart. I mean, really, that's such an experience that I really think all women should experience it. I know it is a little challenging in the beginning. I don't know if everybody experienced that, but I had like a bit of cracking and bleeding on nipples in the beginning, and it was a bit challenging to go through it, but I was so dedicated to it that I said, "I'll get through it. It'll stop," just like... And it did. After about a week or so, it was like, okay, now it's getting more comfortable. And I, oddly enough, went through that each time I breastfed, and I have 3 children. And I couldn't believe that happened 3 times. But I figured maybe it's just your body's way of kind of building up a little toughness to having that little mouth on there all the time. Did Cheryl or Delanne, did either of you have any issues with that, or maybe it was just me?
Yeah, I think most women do go through that around, I don't know, somewhere between 6 weeks and 3 months. I don't think it's right in the beginning for most, but yeah, I think that. Did you, Cheryl?
With the nipples and things, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like cracking stuff like
Sore
that.
and cracking, yeah.
Yeah, the first time, it's just a whole learning thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember with my second, with Noah, it was 10 days of pain every time I tried to nurse him, but I got through it, and it was fine after that.
Yes.
And with my third, with Ethan, who has Down syndrome, he couldn't nurse properly at all. I had to pump. I had to use this thing called a nipple shield. It took 3 months for him to be able to breastfeed normally, and I stuck with it, and he did, and it was so totally worth it.
Oh,
I'm like the leche leak here, so I learned so much with Ethan.
that's great.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, breastfeeding is it's so special. Um, I think that was another thing I thought of people, the whole over sexualization with breasts and stuff in our culture. Um, I think some people actually get freaked out nursing a baby because they associate it with sexuality. Um, and so when that baby's just getting its food, they get confused.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a lot of rejection from society as a whole. They're shamed. They're made to feel embarrassed, and that can actually affect the milk production and make it even harder to succeed.
Yeah.
and when we do have the hormones going through us at the time, the oxytocin and stuff, and I it does create feelings that people might associate as being sexual. Um, I guess I don't really know what to say about it, but it's one of those, right, to me, we compartmentalize things. We say this is this and that is that, and we can't see ourselves as whole beings without having to throw something into a particular category.
Hmm. I agree with you.
That's a great point. Yeah, well, since we have a lull there for a second, I did promise that I would tell about my second birth, and that was my little Chloe, and she
Your
was,
bathtub birth.
yeah, wow, what a birth. I mean, it was so quick, and the midwives were there. They came to the house, and I said, I think I'd like to go into the bath. Would you run a bath? Sure, they set it up for me. And within a few minutes, I was sitting in the warm bath, and boy, did that take away any of the sensation. We'll call it sensation on this show, and made me. I mean, just amazing how that changed. Not that I, would freak out anyway, but still, it just went wow. Like that was my epidural, if you will. And and then, it was like I looked up at the midwives. I said, is it possible I have to push? And she goes, yeah, if you feel you have to push, go ahead. And sure enough, it was like 2 pushes, and there she was, this little
Well, they
baby.
let you stay in the water.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they actually
good
came
for
down
them.
and lifted her up, gave her right to me, and she was just looking around. Now, she didn't make any noise. She didn't scream like that. The other two did. Sydney at the first and JoJo, but that was hospital birth, so I don't know if that's had to do with it. I don't know, but Chloe
Oh,
was
sure
very
it is.
quiet when she was. Yeah, and I, got up out of the bath. They were weighing her, and I said, I feel like $1,000,000. I went upstairs, got a little soup, came back up. What's going? It was unbelievable. So that was a great birth, it really was.
My little
But,
Lena,
anybody?
with the two that you met here, Lena and Mika,
Yes.
the midwife brought a small pool to the
Oh,
house that she planned to labor in the water, in the liquid, and she got in there once the pains became significant, the contractions became significant, and birthed in there. And like I said, I have 11 grandkids. I've been at every one of those births, and 6 of my own. I have never experienced a more peaceful, in tune, beautiful, unstressed birth. She didn't make a sound. I was performing as her
yeah.
doula, and it was my job to make sure, one of my jobs to make sure that she breathed, especially when she was pushing. And I was like, you got to tap me or something. I can't even tell if you're having a contraction. And again, just like, I really think the water just takes a lot of the stress off, and so the body, the contractions can really do their work. You make a lot of progress with every one. And then when the baby was born, like yours, Nancy, just wide awake, alert, really
Yeah.
bonded and tuned to mom, wanting to be there, but more interested in looking around. No crying, no stress on that baby. I mean, it was beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, I know it's quite a different birth, and I think being out of hospital has a lot to do with it too. I'm not giving full credit to the water, but I think a lot of it has to do with you're in your own environment.
You
There's
feel
there's
safer.
Yeah, it's just, there was no comparison. I mean, I birthed naturally all 3 times. So, but I just noticed that at home there's just such a comfort level. It's different. But
I
the
agree.
water, you know.
Yeah, I do think the water does make a big difference, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I've had it both ways too. Just having a midwife as opposed to a doctor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kudos to your midwives that long ago letting you stay in the tub and not being all taken by fear of infection or what could happen, lawsuit.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
great. They were great. Now, the ones at the hospital, I don't know that they would have done that. There's a lot more regulations. They're very much controlled by the doctors.
Yeah, they make
But
you get out to deliver.
yes, my last birth was in hospital with my little guy, but that was really cool because the midwife, she came up to me and privately whispered in my ear and she said, I know you're ready to go, but I have to birth two people next door. If you could just wait a couple of minutes, they're so ready. She said, because I really want to be here. And I did. I waited for her. I kind of told JoJo, like, just give her a few minutes. And soon as she walked in the door, Delian, I swear I was like, okay, we're ready to go. I feel it. And then she was great. She said to me, she asked my husband, do you want to lift him out? And he kind of backed up like, yeah, no, thanks. And I said, could I do it? And she said, of course. And I reached down, and there he was. I just lifted him up. It was amazing.
Wow.
Each one is cool,
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Birthing stories gives you chills, right, ladies?
Yeah. To backtrack just a little bit, what do you think's going on when people get morning sickness? That just
Mostly mineral deficiency.
yeah, I had it. My first one, but back then when my breakfasts were like coffee and pastries, and my diet improved over the years. So, and then I noticed that the morning sickness improved. But some people get it, really bad for the entire pregnancy.
Well, there is something with the hormonal changes, but if that's all it was, I don't really think it would be very severe. A little bit of nausea here and there, maybe when you first get up, or burpiness. But when you really have morning sickness, there's an imbalance. Your body is not adjusting easily to the hormonal changes, and because it requires the multitude of frequencies that the minerals provide. The body needs to communicate internally. The systems need to let each other know what's going on, and that can't happen.
Yeah. What about something like gestational diabetes? They're just people are progressing along in their pregnancy and they're taking the test, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh no, you have gestational diabetes, and you've got to do these things." Why would a person just all of a sudden go into that?
They wouldn't. The medical industry might all of a sudden discover it, but it didn't happen all of a sudden. Something like that can't happen all of a sudden. They were probably predisposed for a very long time, and the pregnancy creates more of a stress and a challenge. Yeah, I mean, we just look at things totally differently than, what your doctor would tell you.
Yeah, gosh. Wish I knew back then what I know now.
Yes. Ladies, this has been such a good show, and we're kind of hitting that hour mark. But Cheryl, maybe you want to do like a little bit of the kitchen talk, like I don't know if anybody's been watching who's been on there. I'm seeing a lot of cool recipes and stuff.
Well, we didn't get to hit Will's very unique view on menopause.
Oh, this is true. Well, I don't know if Will
where is Will?
Comment on that or
He has not shown his face this whole time.
I know. He's in hiding.
Will doesn't seem to believe that there's any real such a thing as menopause. I don't know if I'm fully aligned with that, because I do know that there's a natural change that happens, although he denies that. I mean, if we were so balanced and so well nourished and so tuned to the earth and to love of one another and living so naturally that nothing interfered, and we were like living to be 200 and 300 years old, and et cetera, perhaps he's right. You know, in an ideal world, I think perhaps he may be right. But I do believe that what people go through, I mean, there's this big conversation with women starting at like age 35. I'm premenopausal. You know, things happen, hormones get out of balance, and it all gets blamed on that. I think that's BS. And I do think that menopause, just like going through puberty, I mean, puberty can be a challenge, or you can just go through it without even realizing until all of a sudden you got boobs, or all of a sudden you've got your period. You didn't really notice anything. Other girls go through all kinds of changes. At the other end, same thing. The more severe your reactions are, the more noticeable the changes are, I believe, the more out of balance the body is. And I know that Will would definitely agree. Because you got to figure by that age, you've had a lifetime of, if you're living conventionally, well, eating wrong, toxic buildup, medical treatment, pharmaceuticals, inoculations, on and on it goes. Your body can't get rid of that stuff. It's all stored. And then it's trying to make it a second metamorphosis in the life, you know, in the biology. Well, there's all kinds of log jams and stop gaps and things that are blocking and preventing a smooth transition. So you sweat, you get moody, you can't sleep. I mean, you know, that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when he first told me that, though, I hadn't heard that one before. It's like, oh, we should stop menstruating, huh? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, in a
perfect world.
yeah.
Maybe in the paradise we were born into, but I don't know that it's a natural world anymore. That's for sure.
My instincts tell me it's really not natural to still be menstruating when you're old age, you know, and so something has to happen between being vibrant and strong enough to bear a child and nurse a child and parent a child through the duration,
Yes.
and then when you become an elder, where that's really not feasible anymore. Something happens. There is a change. It's a similar change to puberty. And I haven't really had that discussion on a deep level with Will to really get to the bottom of what he's saying. But obviously, we don't live in a state that is that that vibrant and capable of birthing and raising children and all of that right to the end, and then we stop. I mean, that there is a devolution of the body. And so at some point things change, hormones stop or alter, and so that would be what we would call menopause, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I can't say that I'm 100% aligned or even completely believing that what Will is saying, but it does have, there is something to what he says, and it's a powerful point, because I don't think people should suffer menopause. It's not natural to suffer menopause the way we do today.
Right.
Okay. I think we've covered the spectrum somewhat, from having your first period to maybe or maybe not having your last period. But
I don't know any 90-year-olds that still have it. Do you?
I will say though, when my middle daughter seemed like she was on the edge of it, on the verge of having her period for the longest time. She took her first scan, and then, this was a couple of years ago, took her first scan, and a lot of things came up, hormonal issues came up for her. She went on her protocol, and within a month, she started menstruating.
There you
I
go.
was pretty shocked with that.
And
Yes.
we've had countless women that have had fairly significant menopausal symptoms
Yes.
that getting a scan and going on a protocol alleviated it. So there's really no reason to suffer through it.
Yeah.
So on both ends.
We did want to touch on a couple of girly issues real quick. Hair and skincare. Because we know that shampoos are full of all sorts of chemicals, all sorts of toxic ingredients, and so I know I've been trying to avoid them for definitely the past year, and I've tried a few different things with varying results. Apple cider vinegar, just plain apple cider vinegar, just on its own. I imagine that different things work for different people, and you have to experiment and find what works for you. But are there things that you guys have tried that have worked well?
Well, Will hasn't used shampoo for years. And, you know, he's got a totally different type of hair than I do. He uses mostly just vinegar. His hair seems healthy and strong, but, you know, I put his hair in that braid almost every day, at least every time he washes it. And my experience is I get like a film on my hands from braiding his hair. His hair doesn't look dirty. It doesn't feel greasy. This is interesting to me because I have not stopped using Dr. Bonner's on my hair. I have baby fine hair and it's not real thick. And if it's not clean like that, it just goes flat and I don't like it. And my understanding is you got to go through, about 3 months of yucky hair before it starts to get naturally lustrous. I don't know. But, I mean, he's fairly successful with it, but I do know, yeah, what I should say is you can go and pet and rub your hands into healthy animals, whether it be a horse, a goat, a dog, and you will get that. There is some kind of, even if they're not greasy, there is like I want to use the word film, although that doesn't sound very positive, but there's like a coating on the hair. And that may be what gets developed if you go the duration without washing that off, because I've been with animals that have had really healthy, lustrous coats, and I still get that same feeling if I really rub on them and get into their hair, and that's what I get when I do Will's hair. So is that a natural state? I don't know enough people that have done the no poo thing long enough for me to play with their hair and know. So we maybe could use some input.
Yeah, I tried a couple of things too. The only thing that I was telling you, Cheryl, the only formula that semi-works for me is the apple cider vinegar mixed with put some honey in it and mix a little water in it. You shake that up. I can use it for a couple of days, but all of a sudden I start getting like a strange texture in my hair, like this, almost like there's something you didn't rinse out. And believe me, I rinse it like crazy. And
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I get a kind of a weird, I don't know, I've heard some other women talking, those are the no poos, you know, all kinds of ideas. I haven't found one yet that really, really works, but I do use that formula, what I just said, occasionally, just to kind of give my hair a break on a day that I don't care. I'll use it for a day or two, and then go back to a regular shampoo. And I try to use more natural shampoos, although read the ingredients and you're not sure what that
find one. Yeah, you
know?
can't find one.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I have read. I'm trying to think what all. I remember reading about people using oatmeal as a shampoo. Oatmeal, yeah. Like a solution made from oatmeal, like dried oats.
Huh.
And then a variety of different lavender, lemon juice, you know, all in the kind of the same realm of what we're talking about here. But I haven't.
What
Go
were
ahead.
people using 100 years ago, 200 years ago, or something like that. You know, where they just, you didn't walk in the store and buy a bottle of shampoo. I mean, what were they using?
Well, this article that I read, a lot of times there were different things for different areas because they had to use something that they could get, you know, that they lived near. They didn't ship things around like we do today. And
Right.
there was the oatmeal, there was like oil, there was different herbal solutions that women would use. Just trying to think if there was anything stronger that I read about, even a salt in one of the combinations. If you can research it and find all kinds of things that people have used. And it's funny, we deal with Amish quite a bit and Mennonites, and they keep their hair plastered back and out of sight underneath these caps. And for the most part, what I can see of it, it looks very oily.
Oh, it does.
So in that natural world, they don't seem to have much of anything that, you know, that maybe we would want to use. I don't know. It's baffling because I do believe, you know, for all the centuries that shampoo didn't exist, I don't believe women walked around with greasy, yucky, flat hair. There has to be something that we can do.
Right? Even in painting, they look like they have this gorgeous, perfect hair, right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, I have used a combination of Dr. Bronner's or the most natural shampoo I can find, just a tiny bit, and baking soda, and then an apple cider vinegar rinse, and that seems to do all right.
Oh, that's a thought. Yeah.
I can live with. Lisa did mention that she's been using something called the Morocco method for the past year, which she really loves. I think it's a shampoo set of some sort. So there are options out there, and it's worth looking around and finding something.
Yeah, well, you've seen Lisa's hair. She's
Yeah.
definitely got a different amount and texture than you and I do.
She's got hair.
Yeah. She's got
got
a
more
mane.
hair than us combined.
Oh, I do want to say, though, I have several hairdressers that are raving about the conditioning ability of the EMLC, the amino acid oil on the hair. I have one, and also not just for hair, but for cuticles, to do a manicure with the EMLC. She's working on some formulas because it's a very heavy oil, and it doesn't work straight up for hair like this, but I found if I thin it, it really does make the hair really soft and lustrous. As far as conditioning, yeah, because some of the stuff you use can be harsh. Especially the natural shampoos are harsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I know the EMLC. I've used it on my face, so it's amazing. I mean, that's great. That just goes right into your skin, and it feels great. And I mean, I just wipe off what's on top of the bottle. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, a tiny, tiny bit, yeah.
You hardly need any.
I started.
Go ahead.
I started putting it on in the shower when I'm all done, so that the warm water, as it's still running, what my skin wants, it'll take in, and the rest just goes away. It seems to work better.
Yeah. Now, I tried it on my hair. I have very fine hair, so it was a little rough for my hair. I think you need a bit of a thicker hair to try that, or maybe you just need a good shampoo after it because it really saturates the hair.
Oh, to use it as like a treatment, you're right. It really does. But what I'm finding is after I'm out of the shower and my hair's, I'm going to dry my hair, put the slightest little bit on wet fingers, and then just pinch the ends or just run it lightly through. It has to be a very thin amount of it, a very, very tiny amount. And how do you get a little tiny drop of oil to spread through your whole hair? That's the problem for those of us with baby fine or thin hair. But it does work. I've been working with it. I really like it. Yeah.
Nice.
So maybe we'll come out with a line of hair care product. I don't know.
Exactly. I would.
One thing I really like doing skincare-wise is using the colostrum powder and mixing it with honey and putting it on my face. And it tastes good too. You can kind of lick it off a little bit.
Like a mask?
Yeah, just leave it on till
Just
it
leave it
cracks.
on for a while. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you got to start putting those kind of ideas up on the community kitchen. I'm sure lots of people would be interested.
Good
Yeah.
idea. We'll start
Yeah.
doing.
I really like the body oil you guys sell too, the Avena orange oil stuff.
Body splash.
Yes.
Yeah,
I,
that's citrus and almond, I think, isn't it?
yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that works really good, especially in the summertime.
That's actually good for instead of like a sunscreen.
Hmm.
Do you notice that you burn less or get less damage from the sun using that?
I don't burn a lot.
Don't know. Yeah, you've been in the sun so long, you don't know.
Yeah.
We have to ask that of somebody who goes through the seasons. I think so. If I use that on my skin, normally I'll burn on first exposure if I don't keep it short in the spring. But if I use that, it's not a problem.
Right.
Mm.
And sun, the sun. All these ladies are afraid to go out in the sun now, right? Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know what to feel about the sun. Is it good for us? Is it not good for us? I mean, it's supposed to be healthy. Vitamin D. Our body makes vitamin D, but yet, I guess too much of it can cause a little problem. But
Well, according to Dr. Will,
uh-huh.
if you have your minerals and your body's in balance, yeah, the sun should not be harmful. We do need the vitamin D. But interestingly, I read an article just the other day, and it's the first time I've run into this information, and I don't have all the details, so I'm just going to give it to you in a general idea. But back in the year 1996, supposedly, I think it was Russia, not even positive about that, had some satellite up messing around doing experiments on the Van Allen belts. And according to this article, I don't know really enough about it. I'm just going to share the information. There are 3 layers, or were 3 layers, to the Van Allen belts, and something in their experiment, which was never completely clarified, went awry. The satellite that was up there messing around was never revealed if it crashed or it's still up there or what happened to it. But the term was that they caused that belt, the innermost belt, to leak, and so that it has become gone and non-existent, and that was one of our protections from too much solar radiation from the harmful UVs and such. And that my mind went right away to, I wonder if that has anything to do with what started them with the chemtrails and putting the metals up into the sky trying to compensate for that. I don't know. It's just a thought.
I know.
But
Yeah.
if that's the case, then there is more concern about the sun for us than there would have been for people prior to 1996.
Yeah. Well, I know Will brings up an interesting point about it too. I think he's saying that his dad used to put his arm out the window. He was a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Window, and that's exactly where he got skin cancer. But because Will says something about that the sun pulls toxins out of the skin, which, am I understanding that right, Delia?
Exactly, yeah. The sun acts like a stimulant, and the lymph is right there. And so it does. It has like a drawing effect, and so the toxins in the body will be drawn to that. And if there's a lot of toxins, it can sort of congeal into a melanoma.
Wow, because my dad has tons of it, and he really didn't go in the sun that much. He was always with a hat on and all that, but boy, he's got it just all over the place, all over his face, mostly on his face actually, and his head. You know.
I think with things like that, there's such a long-standing, widespread influence of improper eating,
That's what I feel.
malnutrition, and out of balance in the body, that we don't know what an actual healthy human being's response would be to these conditions. We only know what's shown up out of the imbalances we've created for ourselves.
Well, he's also got diabetes quite bad now.
Well, there you go.
And so that's his imbalances.
It's so typical that by the age of 50, you've got a physical malady of one kind or another, if not multiples.
Yeah.
That's not natural.
Yeah. My dad actually right now is going through some crazy stuff. So a little prayer out. Weird bacterial infection in his ear. Boy, I wish he would listen to Will. I really do. Can't make people do what they don't want to do. You know?
No, you have to honor their choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it. What do you think, Cheryl?
Cheryl's playing. We caught you.
Well, ladies, I think this was a great show tonight. I actually, this was so much fun just talking about stuff because it's just, you bring up a topic and then everybody has an opinion or a thought or some information. And, I don't know if you'd be into doing this again, the chick show, or we could call it something else, whatever. But, we are going to do a subsequent male-dominated one. We'll have to think of a fun name, the Dude Show or something like that. But
who's going to host that one?
Bob. I think Will be in that one. We might get Bob if he's up to that. He'd probably be cool with that. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if anybody else wants to pop in.
Cool idea. Let's see what the feedback is, and if we got girlfriends out there we don't know we have, and there's stuff they want to talk about, I'd be glad to.
That's right, because this could be a cool, ongoing kind of thing, and then whatever else comes up, of course. It's like girl talk in the kitchen here. I like it.
We did particularly want to thank Simone and Dina and Stacy for sharing their photos and recipes with us the past few weeks. Normally, I don't get into photographing my food, but when it comes to this food, I think people are glad to see what you can eat and to get inspired by that. So,
Yeah, I'm laughing over here because I'm thinking of the feet that keep winding up in the
Oh, it was, Simone told me we have to put our toes in the pictures, but I think we should definitely do it through the summer. You got to put your toes in the picture because.
Well, you have the best toes though, Cheryl. You really do. I just wanted to tell you that.
I'll be checking those out pretty soon.
Right. All right, Cheryl, it's your show tonight, so everything. Go for it, girl.
Well, I guess we'll be rounding stuff up and saying goodnight. Yeah, unless there's anything anyone wants to add.
No, except for we'd like to tell everybody if you need information, please go to bodyelectrician.com. You can also find us on our cool Facebook group, which is Body Electrician Community Kitchen. And anything else, ladies?
Give us a call. We're happy to talk to you.
Yeah, anything else going on with you guys? Big event?
Well, we have the Tesla conference coming up the end of July, the first couple days of August, and then we'll be in Phoenix, Arizona, up in Nevada, out to San Diego, doing some talks. So, if you want more information about that, let us know. We'll let you know where we're going to be and when.
Sure. Yep, we're going to be in the San Diego area between August 13th and 16th. I'm putting together some events for them. I've got 1, 2 lined up, and I'd like to do more. So let me know if you're interested or have people who want to get together.
Excellent. There you go. Well, what do you say, ladies? Go ahead, Joel. Give us the sign-off.
Are we going to sing? So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night.
That's all, folks.
Good night, everybody.
We love you.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night.